Hi, welcome back to our 21 questions series of questions we would ask an estate planning attorney if we were creating our estate plan. I'm Scott Stork with Polaris Law Group, and this is Raymond Chandler, my partner. We're an estate planning and elder law firm out of St. Charles, Missouri. And today's question is, if you help with funding my assets, what's the fee to help me do so? So before we get started, remember to hit the subscribe button. Make sure that you get notifications of all of the videos as they come along. But today we're going to talk about this. And Ray, why is this question important?
Well, again, it's always important to know what you're getting and what you're paying for it. So whenever you have additional work being done by the attorney, you want to know what the investment is for that. So importantly, well, let's just be honest, lawyers don't work for free. So if they tell you that there's no fee for funding your estate plan, that means they're not going to help you fund your estate plan. They're not going to do any work on funding your estate plan because attorneys are not going to work for free. That's how attorneys get paid. So if there is no fee for funding, that's something you kind of want to dig into and see if they're really going to help you in any way, shape, or form. And so you want to make sure that the fee there is based on what you have, what's going to be done, things like that. So one thing to look at, again, going back to our fee video, is it going to be an hourly basis? If it's hourly basis, then the amount of time that goes into funding is what you're going to be charged for. And that means every time you have to call the bank, call the financial institution, the institution has to call you back, then you have to leave a message, and then they call you back after that, and then you play phone tag with the financial institution for however long. And trust me, that's how funding works, unfortunately. You're getting charged for all of that phone tag back and forth between the attorney and his team or anything like that. And so you want to make sure that if it's an hourly basis that you know what you're kind of getting into. And it's going to be very hard to know what that fee is ahead of time if it's an hourly charge. So again, looking at other ways of charging, maybe it's a flat fee. So what is that flat fee based on? Is it based on the amount of time it's going in? Is it based on the complexity that's going in? Is it based on your assets that you're putting in? Based on the amount of questions that are going forward and things like that? What does that fee include? Again, when you're looking at funding, it can't just simply be, well, we're going to get your stuff put in your trust and that's all, and here's the fee for it. Really, what is that fee? What are those steps? What are you looking at to be paying for to make sure it's done? Does it include verification of your assets, or just simply the very first document that goes out? What does it really include? So when you're looking at your fees for funding, when you're looking at an attorney that does funding and charges for funding, what does that look like? And again, if they tell you there's no fee, then there's also no funding. So Scott, how do we look at that?
So big surprise, much like the rest of our costs that we talk to clients about in investing in their estate plan, the funding is the same way. So we have a schedule of what the funding is and how we charge for that. And it very much is based on the complexity of the funding. We don't want to charge somebody who has a very simple funding case, relatively speaking, that's going to take a lesser amount of time and effort, the same amount as what somebody who has a complex funding cases. That what we try to do is make sure that we're fair to the client so that we can make sure that they're being charged appropriately and that the client knows exactly what's going into that. Because as we've talked about before, there is a lot of work to make sure that not only is funding done completely, that it's done correctly, and that hopefully we get verification that it's been done accurately. And that's from usually the financial institution side. So before we ever get started with a case, we sit down with the client when we give them the investment summary of what the plan is going to cost, and we talk to them through all of their assets, all of their property, try to uncover if there's going to be anything that is more difficult or less difficult, and then give them a cost based on that fee range. And so a client's going to walk out of that meeting understanding exactly what that cost is.
So very important information to have. So again, continuing on with our series here, these are 21 questions we would ask an estate planning attorney if we were going to hire them. So that's why we're asking these questions with you and for you. Our next video, next time we come up, is going to be, what do you charge to work with my financial professionals team? So the people outside of the law firm that need to be worked with as well. So that's very important. So to make sure that you get that answer and know when that video comes out, again, subscribe to the channel, hit your bell for the notifications, make sure you are notified when the new videos come up. Again, I'm Raymond Chandler, and this is my partner, Scott Stork. We're with the Polaris Law Group, an estate planning and elder law firm out of St. Charles, Missouri, and we'd love to help you with anything you need.